Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today is just going to be a solo event with me interviewing a upcoming speaker for Home DadCon. Danny is unavailable, but I'm back. It was a very crazy week last week, as Danny was talking about on the previous episode. I spent the equivalent of an entire week at Cincinnati Children's Hospital with my oldest. He came into the hospital on Saturday night with a bunch of different things going on, but the main one was low sodium. Um, had some scary moments, not gonna lie. Something I, as a dad, as a parent, I have not really had any experience with all that much with my kids. Um, but we made it through. Doctors, nurses, everybody was awesome. We were able to find out quite a bit of information. Definitely on the right track to just a brighter future with things. But really, the biggest part of it, I would say, would be to just kind of give everybody, I guess, insight and a peace of mind into what was going on was advocacy. So I just want to share this part real quick because hopefully you're never in this situation, but if you are in this situation, you understand that you hold all of the power and control in this situation. So, what was going on was I took him to the urgent care. They did a bunch of different checks on him. We were concerned about appendicitis and some different things like that because of his side hurting and different things like that. They could not conclusively come to say that that's what it was going on. He's had some other issues in the past. So what we ended up doing was asking for an ultrasound. The medical professional that we were talking with was didn't seem completely on board about it, but at the same time was willing to go that way. But I had to kind of force the issue because when I brought it up, their response was, well, we don't do that here. For an ultrasound, you would need to be transferred over to the ER. And I'm like, okay, like, then transfer me to the ER. Is it really that difficult of a situation? Or like, is it a lot of hoops and ladders or what? She's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, okay, then we'd like to be transferred to the ER. And she then said, well, just so you're aware, even though I send you over there, doesn't mean that they're going to do an ultrasound. They're going to make their own decisions. So you could tell like there was a sort of like, yeah, I can do it, but like in her mind, it almost seemed like it was a waste of time to go, which was actually quite frustrating. And I said, it sounds like this is a pretty easy process. Since you can't do what I'm asking you to do for my child and this other department can, I'd like you to transfer me to the other department. At that point, she finally decided to do that. And we were transferred over to the emergency department, and they did a bunch of different tests. And I'm so glad that we did. Actually, I had a nurse come up to me and say that she was very happy to hear that I had advocated and pushed for us to be moved to the emergency department to get that test because the getting the ultrasound, and then they also did some blood work and some things. It was the blood work actually that came back with the different things that were going on with my son that started this whole journey from Saturday night all the way up until this past Sunday afternoon when we got to finally come home. So just wanted to put that out there. Today on the show, we have one of our speakers for Home DadCon. I'm really interested to hear from Jeremy Roadruck. Jeremy is going to be talking in a breakout session on hacking communication with your kids. Now, I don't know about you, but when I talk to my kids, I feel like sometimes it's Morse code or hieroglyphics or something like that. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one that deals with this. But we're going to take a quick peek into what it is that Jeremy's going to be talking about on his in his breakout session. And I am very curious just to hear what kind of information he has to bring. He definitely comes with a lot of credentials. He is definitely someone I would consider a life coach. We'll find out if that's exactly what his job is on this episode. But he talks about marriage and talks about parenting and things along those lines. So he's definitely coming with lots of knowledge, and I'm really looking forward to talking with him. And we will be right back with Jeremy Roadruck and have that discussion. Become a member of the National At Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support. Connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. Hey, everybody, and we're back. And as I said before, I have a guest with me today. I've got Jeremy Roadruck with me, and we're going to be talking about his breakout session coming up for Home DadCon in October in St. Louis. If you don't have your ticket yet, you are going to be missing out. So I highly recommend getting that. Last week we had another speaker on, Neil Lichter, and he was talking about ASD. So if you missed that episode, go back and hear that. But today we're going to be talking with Jeremy, and I'm really excited about it. And Jeremy, you are hanging out in the same state as me. You're literally just up the highway. That's I was like I found that out last week, and I was like, man, we should try to get together. And then of course my entire world fell apart. How you been, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, we've got family up here. So currently living in Florida, but come back at least like once or twice a year to see family and say hey. So yeah, we're up in Dayton, D-Town.
There you go. I mean, did you come up here to just get away from hurricanes? Is that what it was? I feel like that's
No,
starting to all
no.
brew down there in the south.
Yeah, luckily we haven't had any like really hit us, but we already have a strategy. We've got people in state to go visit and we're gonna bug out. We're not gonna be like, ooh, hurricane, ride it out. Woo. We're like, nope, see ya. 3 cats in the car, gone.
Yeah, I was talking with one of the guys or some of the guys in the dad lounge the other day, and they were talking about, Texas, the hurricane coming through there. And I guess like the grocery stores there were putting a limit of 2 briskets could be bought at a time. I was like, that is an interesting survival thing. Like,
They
yeah,
got their
man,
priorities.
I'm gonna smoke a brisket and watch this thing roll in.
Yeah, a friend of mine's in kind of the whole mix of that in Houston, and he posted a graphic, and it was all of the Whataburgers that have power in yellow versus don't have power in gray.
Yeah,
It's
priorities
like
for sure.
that's our unit of measure is Whataburger. There you go.
I mean, I've heard it's pretty good, so I guess if that works for you, go all out on it, I guess. That's
Heck
hilarious,
yeah.
man. Well, hey, we haven't really had a chance to talk, so I don't know a whole lot about you. And for our listeners, that's definitely the reason that we bring the speakers on before the convention. So let's kind of start at the beginning. Tell everybody a little bit of who you are and sort of your family dynamic.
Okay, cool. Well, in the beginning, I was born, which was kind of a thing because I was pregnancy 7 of 10,
Oh, wow.
and there's only me and my brother, and he was number 4. And my parents
Okay.
wanted 2, so if they had it go their way, I never would have been born, and neither would have him. So
Wow.
so yeah, and then my brother is kind of like Charlie Brown. Yeah, he'll sit and watch the grass grow and just kind of calm and cool and chill. He's a good engineer, very thoughtful, very
Has
all
a
the
has a
things.
tennis ball hanging in the garage when he backs into the car or garage or whatever.
Probably, yeah. And then you got me. I fell asleep standing up in the crib. Um, he was like excited when I was born and came home. He was excited for like a couple hours. It was like, can we take it back because it's loud? And yeah, so I was never diagnosed with anything. My parents just said you were a high energy child. Like I shaved my head at 18 and I've got scars all over my skull. And it's like, where'd these come from? We don't know. You were an active child. And that was all they said. And so I ran into traffic when I was 4 when we were living in Turkey. And so I had to be on a harness to keep me from getting into trouble. Got lost in a Turkish bazaar also at 4, climbed on the roof of the house also at 4. Um, 4 was a momentous year. And
Yeah, sounds like it. You were a
so
wild
so
turkey.
the way I put it is I have a low excitation threshold. I find a lot of things very interesting very quickly, and I never get bored. But I did learn over time how to entertain myself without distracting other people. Um,
Okay.
and then when we lived in Saudi, I had some bad stuff happen that made it hard to trust adults. And then we got back to the US a year later, I had some bad stuff happen that made it hard to trust kids. So now I'm 6.5 and I got my back against the wall and I have to know all the entrances, all the exits, all the dominant personalities. And by 7, if we play tic tac toe, there's a part of me, I'm going to die if I lose. So I had this intensity with everything that I did. And I saw the reaction of the other kids because I scared them. So I had to learn to become a mimic and I had to learn to become a chameleon simply because it's kind of dumb to just push everybody against the wall.
Mm,
It's easier if I just like blend in, don't get noticed, kind of figure things out. Because what I realized was people will say one thing and then they will do a second thing, but they will mean a third thing. And they may or not have anything to do with each other. And I didn't trust anybody to explain to me why is it that way. So I had to kind of figure it out for myself.
okay.
And there's this if I lose or get it wrong, I'm gonna die pressure in my unconscious that like years later I unpacked all this stuff and resolved it. But growing up massively angry, massively you're not going to make me, you can't make me. Reverse psychology, I could see through it and I'm going to go sideways and now we're both mad because I'm not going to do what you want and you're going to block me from what I want. Fine. And I would go sideways and now we're both mad. I win. Like, so I was like today you would say oppositional defiant, but I wasn't obvious about it because I realized, well, I'm just going to get punished. So I'm going to be in my room and I'm going to be bored. This is stupid. So then I would act contrite and I would cry and I would get my spanking and then I'd go outside and play. Cool. That's what I want. So was I kind of borderline with some empathy thrown in? And like you can throw all these different labels and judgments, but I was in this survival mode kid growing up, very observant, very intelligent, and luckily for me the abuse that happened was after I started building empathy. So I cared about other people. So I didn't go like the sociopathic route or the disassociative route. And so I had to figure everything out. And that's kind of the journey I have been on for a very long time.
Is that
And
is that because are you a like from a military family? Like what were you doing
yep,
over in Turkey and yeah, Saudi Arabia?
yeah. Yeah, my dad was Air Force, my grandfather was Army, and then I did Army Reserve when I got out of high school.
Okay.
Well, a little bit of college and stuff. But yeah, so military family is why we're moving all around. And like I was in this place and I had to figure it all out. And that was kind of the journey that I went through. So I was doing cross-cultural religious studies in my early teens before the internet. So you had to like go to the library and like look
Oh,
through the
yeah.
Dewey Decimal System. Yeah, like hardcore research. Um, and really the big turning point for me was when I started martial arts at 20. I paid for it. It was my experience because like I swam from 8 to 13, but it was my parents' thing, and like I had to perform, and we fought over that a lot because like they wanted me to like do dumb stuff, like try hard and like do my best and like pay attention. And I was like, I just want to get in the water, splash around. Like our goals are completely misaligned, but there was no
Mhm.
communication on that. So when I started martial arts, I'm paying for it. It's my activity. I own the outcome. And that's where I really began to put myself back together, because I had this intellectual drive, but there was also this massive insecurity, massive defensiveness. And when you got a room full of people that can kick the crap out of you, or punch you, or choke you, or tackle you, or sweep you, or all the things, your intellectual argument is moot when they can just dump you on your head.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
it's really humbling. And you're like, oh, dude, that was cool. Do that again. How did that happen? What did I do? And that was like how I got more mentally and emotionally and physically engaged and integrated. And like, 6th-degree master now, and been in DVDs and wrote articles and international champion and traveled the world, did a bunch of really cool stuff. But that was a great vehicle for me because I was so disconnected and I wouldn't give power to anyone. So my instructor was like, hey, first time we met, we did the interview and did the intro class and stuff. And he's like, I've been studying this since I was 10 years old. I haven't found a way to break it yet. You're welcome to try. Which was just about the perfect thing to say to me, because oh, I'll show you. You think you're so smart, Mr. Asian guy who's been doing this for however long. So yeah, it was fantastic. And then like 3 months later, I was training 7 days a week and like a duck to water.
That's awesome. So through all that, you're in your 20s here. So at what point do you meet your wife, and how does fatherhood start for you?
That doesn't happen for another almost 18 years.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
had
So how'd that go?
well, yeah. So the martial arts, like I got to put me back together, but still massive control freak, high need for certainty. Like I did food combining and natural eating, and I'm studying naturopathy, and you don't mix meats with proteins and or meats and carbohydrates. You got to eat those separate. You got to eat vegetables and fruit before noon. So like super rigid. But that's what I needed at the time to kind of like get control of my life. And so dated a couple times. I had a relationship in my late 20s. That's when the memories of the abuse started to come back, because the memories had been repressed. There were just giant holes in my memory that I could never get access to. And wherever that relationship went, I had enough emotional safety and enough resourcefulness internally for my unconscious to start serving back those memories. And then that relationship collapsed. And then that kind of forced me harder into getting this stuff resolved, because remember that story about you can't make me?
Yeah.
Well, nobody can make me, not even me can make me. And so I put myself into a very complex situation in life with a lot of pressures to kind of crack open my belief system, because how I'm living is not who I am. Okay, dude, you've got to make a decision. Where do you stand? What do you actually value, and how are you actually going to live? And it forced me into myself to really come to accounts with you say these things and you do these things and you've done these things, but there's another side that you haven't dealt with. And that put me into the process where I eventually got master level certification in hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming. I went through a bunch of personal development workshops, certifications, and I got that stuff reintegrated so that kind of when you're doing the deep inner work, as long as your story about whatever happened is focused on the past, focused on other people, or in the negative, any of those three, there's still stuff that's unresolved. When you can talk about it in the positive about yourself and for the future, that's when it's integrated and that emotion is gone. You keep the learnings and you can move forward because you've got this higher, bigger, compelling vision pulling you. And so I accomplished all of that. And then I dated my good away, and only people that were takers stayed.
We paused back when you, I think, started talking about dating.
Okay.
Like
What was the last thing you heard?
something about you were talking about like polling, and then you mentioned like I thought you said so. When I started, I thought you said dating.
Okay.
And then it
Do you
just
remember what? Do you remember what was right before that?
oh gosh, You're talking about plan, I think is what it was. Oh gosh, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Okay. So did you hear the part about the takers?
No.
Okay. Um, did you hear the part about smothering?
Nope.
Okay.
I say rewind about 20 seconds.
Yeah. 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 So I'm trying to think where the line of thought was. So when I was dating or when I got into relationships, because I had to go through the work of resolving myself, I had to get to this place of clarity. And once I had that, then I could start dating like in a healthy way, right? So it wasn't until my mid 30s that I dated my first giver and somebody who I could receive from, because prior to that, until I got reintegrated, anybody gave to me, like I'm going to smother them, like I'm going to give more because I have to do more to earn the right to receive love. But then when she gives to me, well, I don't deserve this, so I'm going to give more. And so I smothered, and I was like always present and always available and doing everything I can to make you happy, and you're going to feel great about me, and I'm going to treat you better than anyone's ever treated you ever in whole entire life. That's like ramming that energy down someone's throat. Like anybody quality is going to go because, dude, you're smothering me. I can't breathe. And it feels good to give. I mean, it's nice to receive, but it feels really good to give too and have someone appreciate what you're doing for them.
Right. And you want to have a balance on that when you're in a relationship.
Yeah. And I didn't get that until after I had gotten reintegrated. And so then it was like I dated someone who was a little bit older than me, and she had already had kids. And I was still at this place of, well, do I want to be a dad, like biologically, or do I want to be like a father figure? And because I didn't have that answer, that was the end of the relationship, because it's not fair. She knows what she wants. I don't. I can't do this to you. I got to get that clarity.
Yeah.
And I went on a couple of dates, and the ladies I dated after her, I was like I went out on literally one date, and in my head, I'm like, oh, I could make this work. And that immediate thought, another part of my brain said, nah, dude, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's
think
like,
if,
then
yeah, I was gonna say, do you think if you have to say the words like I can make that work, like that's like a big red flag, basically?
massively,
Yeah.
massively, because I'm recognizing there's challenges and I'll adapt myself. So it's like, but dude, you used to do that and it never worked out. And so I was like, you're nice, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to pursue this. And then like 6 months after I broke up with the one relationship, I literally walked into my wife's life. Her family had a business that was expanding, and I saw her on social media, and we were connected from an event like 3 years prior, and she was seeing someone and had a kid, blah blah blah. And it popped up on my Facebook, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Ignore, working. And then take a break, pop back on social media. She pops in my feed again. That's weird. Third time, I was like, I think I need to go check this out. Walk in the store, time disappears, like 3 hours doesn't exist. It's just her and me, and there's nothing else but this room.
Mm.
That was so cool. And just as I'm leaving, my brain had switched to work mode, and I'm going, I got to get back to work. I got to run classes tonight. Oh, we should do lunch. Yeah, let's do that. And I walk out. After I finished classes that night, like I realized that was an invitation. So I shot her a message on Facebook, didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks because family, business, building, etc. And so
Right.
then July 5th, I like Dayton was doing First Fridays. So I went downtown Dayton where her family business was, or one of them. And she lit up like 4th of July. She was like so happy. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. It's just been so crazy. But I'm like, hey, it's cool. Hung out again 4 more hours. Time just doesn't exist. And yeah, we're in a crowd of all these people, and I only see one person. I think I'm in trouble. And then I gotta go. I gotta my roommate's dogs. I gotta feed them. Blah blah blah. You gotta get back to work. And then I heard this song down the street. I'm like, oh, I love that song. And she's like, well, let's go listen to it before it's too late. And she grabs my hand, and she's already moving that direction. And I was like, wait, what? Did you just hear what I said and took action on it because it was important to you? And that was literally the moment I was like, who the hell is this? And it's been 10 years, well, 11 years, as of yesterday was my last first date. we're recording this on 7/10. 7/9 was my last first date, which was her.
Awesome.
Yeah, 6 months later we were married. And the marriage, like we got married in 5 days because we were going to do this big thing in April, but found out Jeremy doesn't press his time. Because like, do you have your guest list? Babe, you just asked me.
Real quick, I'm hearing myself echo on your side for some reason.
No echo on me.
No echo on you. I'm just hearing myself sometimes when I talk.
Okay.
I don't know where that was coming from, but it's okay.
Yeah, you sound clear.
Okay. I don't know where that was. So, okay. So, yeah. So, congratulations on that. Cause I mean, honestly, like that's always very exciting. I completely understand that. Sounds very similar in some ways to the things that I grew up with, but at the same time, too, like I didn't grow up in a military family, but I definitely had where I would try to like smother, try to do all these different things like that. So that makes
Yeah.
total sense. So you get married and she already had a kid, right? Is what you're saying. So
Yeah.
you immediately kind of jump right into like a fatherhood type of situation.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, so how does kind of all of that come into play with communicating with kids? Because I mean, in this case, like obviously, you're kind of hitting the ground running with
Yep.
her already having a kid. So, um, talk a little bit about just what that's like to try to figure out how to communicate with a child that you haven't been around since their birth,
Right.
and then how has that sort of played into um, what you're going to be bringing to Home Dad Con for your breakout?
Yeah, absolutely. So my whole entire life actually prepared me for that because at 9, am I going to take holy orders and be a Franciscan monk, or am I going to be a dad? Because like you're going to be a father figure, people are going to call you father as a monk, but you never had kids. There's instincts that never turned on. Like, who are you to say that? Like, how dare you? Which I got an answer to 25 years later. But we'll sidebar that. But what ended up happening was my whole life, because learning kung fu, to be a sifu, the Chinese characters, it's teacher and father. And the Chinese character for father is an X with eyebrows. It's a pair of hands holding sticks. And you can think of in Chinese culture, the dad's job is to teach the guidelines. Like, here's what's in bounds, here's what's out of bounds. And think about the airplane. You got the guy with the little flashlights, go this way, go that way, go over there. That's kind of the idea of the dad's job, is I'm going to teach you how to show up and what's in bounds and what's out of bounds. And so as a Kung Fu master, like I'm working with kids all the time. So I've got an awareness of developmental psychology. This kid's 3, fantastic. He can handle very small chunks. And he doesn't know me from anywhere. So are we going to be in positional authority? I'm your dad, you have to. I'm your stepdad, I'm your mom's boyfriend, you have to. Or am I going to be in influential leadership? And I took influential leadership, and I'm going to align vision and values. I'm going to build rapport. What is he interested in that I can be interested in? Does he get excited about that I could be excited about? So it's a genuine relationship. We played a lot of Lego on the Xbox, and we played together as a team, and I helped him out. He helped me out. We worked together, and look out for that color. Oh, look for that shape. Oh, I'm missing this. Can you help me find it? And I put myself in a place where I need his help. Made him feel big, made him feel important, made him feel like what he said mattered. And when we became like an official couple, I told him, look, it doesn't matter. Key detail. I didn't say I don't care. I said, it doesn't matter what you call me. I don't need a label. I'm in your life. I'm in your mom's life to help make it better. I have experience, knowledge, things I would like to share. Just consider my point of view and we'll be cool. Can you do that with me? That was it. Now I made a distinction. I didn't say I don't care, because if you tell a 3, 4, 5-year-old kid, I don't care, blah, 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 there's a part of their brain that goes, well, if you don't care, then I don't care, or I shouldn't care. And so rather than say I don't care, because that's not what most adults mean, that's not an important detail. That's not salient to this conversation. That's not a critical factor at this moment. That's not a hinge point in this discussion. There's so many ways we can build linguistic models, and we can use our words. Because with my stepson, he's very auditorily driven at that age. If you say, I'm disappointed in you, that's heavy. My daughter's visual kinesthetic. If you say, I'm disappointed disappointed, her attitude's basically sucks to be you, mister. And she's off because that's just not her wiring. And so it's like, if me or my wife like make them communicate the way we communicate, we're dead because that's not who they are.
Yeah. Dang it. It froze again. If you can hear me when you come back on, you were talking about your daughter.
Are at how they input.
Oh, you froze.
Yeah. Sorry. What was the last thing?
You were talking about your daughter and how you guys like you all don't communicate the same way. Like,
yeah. So for my stepson, I'm disappointed. Oh, that's heavy. And he's really, it really lands for him. But my daughter, she's more visual kinesthetic. Hey, I'm really disappointed in this. And her attitude is basically, sucks to be you, mister. And she's off doing her next thing. Because like that's just not how she processes. So my wife and I, it's like, we're not going to make you communicate the way we communicate. We're going to play detective and figure out your communication style. And then we're going to pitch in a way that you catch, which is a kinesthetic metaphor. We're going to show you the light, which is a visual metaphor. We're going to say it clearly, which is an auditory metaphor. We're going to explain the process, you understand the concept, which is a conceptual metaphor, right? So it's knowing how to dial your language so that what you say gets into the model of the world of the person you're talking to. It's way easier, right?
yeah.
My kid doesn't listen. Well, maybe they're not auditory. Maybe they're visual. Maybe you need to go like this and break their focus on the screen and then eyes on me, please. Hey, thank you. There you are.
That's my
so
son.
What I asked you to do is, yeah,
that's
a lot of guys. A lot of guys are visual.
Yeah.
And if we're not looking, we're not listening. And it's like, excuse me, sir, eyes. Hey, there you are. Thanks.
Yeah.
Love when you look at me when I'm talking.
This is what I dealt with when we were in the hospital last week. He would be either playing the Switch or watching a movie, and the doctor or nurse would come in and start talking to him. And every time, it wasn't just, I couldn't just mute the screen. I had to literally turn the TV to completely turn it off just so that he could communicate with it.
Excuse me. Eyes. Hey, excuse me. Oh, hey, there you are. Thanks.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's not punishing them or making them wrong because that's their input system right now because it's malleable and moves.
Sure.
But it's like catching them. Yeah, maybe you have to like touch them like, hey, dude, maybe you need the kinesthetic interruption, visual interruption, a loud noise, auditory interruption. Like some of the kids get trained. Mom and dad aren't serious until they walk in the room and yell at me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because if they yell at me from the other room, I know I've got another 35 seconds. And if I grew up on Calvin and Hobbes, so there's the one episode where he's like, Mom is like, come inside. It's dark. It's not that dark. It's dark enough. Oh, she cut it off before we could really get going on definition of terms. Oop, lost my shoe. And then like Hobbes is like, every minute outside and awake is a good minute. And it's like this game.
Yep.
That's all of us play games. And it's not malicious. We play games because we're all energy addicts and we're going to figure out how to get the energy we need. And kids are going to go with quantity, number of energy units before they go quality, positive or negative.
I remember when I became a parent, like one of the things that I would do is you'd have that like, I'm going to count to 3 and like, you need to do this. And it was like, you did it. It worked a couple of times. And then after that, like they caught on real quick and it was like, oh, I can get away with just like extending this on. And at that point you're like, all right, like you as a parent have to catch on to the fact it's like we have to come up with a different game plan because that's not gonna work at all.
Right. Human beings are not lazy. We are efficient for a given set of variables.
Yeah. There's a reason that when you see in AI movies, they talk about like, they're figuring out how to like fix it and tweak it. Like, you watch different sci-fi things and it's like the robot's always like learning so that it can be better than you. It's like, that's the same thing with kids. Like they're constantly like, oh, okay, I see this and I can go this route. And, they're the same way. And that, that's where that idea I think comes from.
Well, it's a biological imperative when you go back to subsistence existence, don't waste energy because any energy wasted will kill you or kill the community. So it's like we have to be as efficient. So human beings are wired, like this is just a biological imperative. do only as much as necessary for a given set of variables to get to a desired result.
Yeah.
And so if someone's not performing to the standard that you're looking for, change the freaking game. And I have a model of like 4 pieces to a game so that we can figure out, you know, Napoleon, French conqueror way back when, there's a phrase he used, which is, I can get more accomplished for bits of fabric than others can for mounds of gold. Because he realized with his soldiers, when I give you a ribbon for bravery, you are willing to put yourself in the harm's way and in the line of fire to protect your comrades because you're going to get a ribbon for bravery. They'll do crazy stuff that they wouldn't do for, here's more money. I'm in the battle. What can I do with more money? I can't spend it. I'm trying not to die.
Right.
And so that he figured out how to game his soldiers. So why do we have all the military ribbons now? Because it's a gamification of behavior. Human beings are always, we're only doing 2 things. We're playing games and telling stories. The story justifies the game delivers the impact or the result. And if we're smart, we'll change our story based on the feedback. Most of us try the game harder. It's like when I work with parents, I'm like, twice. Any game you do, any interaction with your kids, twice. And if it doesn't work, change. Yep. Not because it's wrong, not because you're bad or they're bad, or it's just not producing a result.
Mm-hmm.
So you do it, doesn't work. Do it again, doesn't work. Cool. Do something different today. Maybe tomorrow it'll work. Maybe yesterday it worked. Maybe next week it'll work. Don't throw it away. But the feedback you're being given is, this isn't getting me traction after 2. Cool. So you got loud. You said something, they ignored you. You got loud, they ignored you. Getting louder, you're just going down the same losing game. So stop and pivot. Shut up. Show them what you want. Do it with them. Ask them questions about it. Change your sensory modality so that you get back into traction.
Yeah.
And then later you can come back and figure out, what exactly went sideways, so we can figure that out and put some boundaries and some guidelines on it.
I really like that, because for me, I'm a baseball guy. And I think the idea of, a lot of people go with the like, 3 strikes and you're out kind of situation. And it's like, 2, and if it doesn't work, pivoting like makes total sense, because then you're not striking out. You're, coming up with a different contingency plan to try to actually get to the, finish line, basically. And that's, I love that.
Well, in the integrative work that I do, or when I'm doing strategic work with someone and changing how they're arriving at their results, we say is a data point's not a trend line, right? A data point's a data point. 2 data points, still not a trend line. You need 3. 3 data points builds a trend line. And so if we can go 1, 2 and pivot, we don't build that, because I got a kid not listening, a kid not listening, a kid not listening. Well, they're oppositional, defiant. No, you formed a bad request because you told your kid don't run. They started sprinting. Well, sprinting's not running. Well, but I didn't want them to run. Okay, what did you want? Well, I want them to walk. Then just say that. Walk, please. Because walk is a construct, right? It's a positive construct. Our brain is built on positive constructs. Don't think of an elephant. You have to create an elephant to then think of something not elephant. Like the brain can't attach to non-elephant because it's too big of a chunk. So it has to create elephant and then replace it with something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I say don't run, skipping is don't running, cartwheels is don't running, the worm is don't running, sprinting is don't running. Like there's so many classes of behaviors. This is where it's helpful if you have like an object-oriented programming mindset. But it's like there's so many classes of behavior that equal don't run, but walk equals walk. Walk slowly, walk safely, walk with self-control, walk with composure, walk with dignity, walk with grace, walk with your head held high. Walk. We can qualify the type of walk, but no amount of don't run. They will then spontaneously arc. Well, you said don't run, but you meant walk. No. Kids are literal. When they're pre-puberty, you said don't run. I didn't run. I sprinted. And that was me.
Well,
like I'm sprinting. It's demonstrably different.
Yeah. It's that whole idea. It's that whole idea of, I think you're being specific in your command, what you're trying to get out of it. And so I was thinking of it more along the lines of like back in the day, like you had the CD players. Like if you wanted it to go to a specific song, you moved it to it. Otherwise, you just like hit like random and then it like figure it out. And that's exactly what it is in a kid's head, or anybody, really anybody. Honestly, I feel like from a standpoint of like being in a position of being a manager and stuff like that, if you're not direct with what it is that you want, like you walk away and come back and you're like, well, that's not what I thought, or that's not what I told you to do. And they're like, well, that's exactly what you said. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I meant this. And like, well, you didn't say that. And that's exactly the thing that
Yep.
you run into with kids.
When you're
Um,
when you're doing search logic in a like Google, we call it a malformed search, right? I used to do part of my life. I was a software tester before I became Kung Fu Master, and I did like Boolean searches and freestyle searches, and like there's search logic, and it's like that's a you'll break the software with a badly formed request. You can bork the software because the error handling isn't built. Like we're gonna have a triangle. We have a program that draws a triangle. You just put three numbers in, and it'll draw your triangle. Cool. Put in 247 million. You just broke it because it can't build that. You can't do length of one, length of one, length of millions. Can't do that. Write the words in EIGHTEEN. You broke the input again, unless you have data validation on the entry forms and a little bit of logic to like, does this even make a realistic triangle? So it's like the code to draw the triangle, 10 lines. The error handling can be ridiculous
yeah.
because there's so many creative ways to break the code. And so our brains, there's a left side, which is very logical and orderly and limited. And then there's a right side, which is infinite and expansive and everything. You can play inside those based on the feedback. And that's, so when we talk about, go back to what you asked me earlier about, talking about my breakout, how do you hack communication with your kids? There's ways to elicit all of this stuff fast. And it's easy to remember because the way we use our brain, even somebody who's quote unquote neurodiverse, there's still going to be patterns of networks that get built. You have to elicit how they operate and then adapt yourself to get to the result, or be right and then just battle all the time and then get mad and frustrated because the kid's being themselves and you just haven't figured out how it works. Choice.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think everything that you're talking about, I hear dads discussing all the time at Home Dad Con. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that at the same time too, there's a lot of guys who are constantly asking like, how do I break this? What do I need to do? And uh, so I'm really excited that you're going to be coming to talk to everybody. It's
And I've got decades of doing this. Like this
yeah,
is I love communication. Like I've been doing a lot of like work with people on like, well, dial in your avatar, dial in your message, do this. And it's like, what do you excel at? Where's your favorite? I'm like, I got a lot because I was in a lot of pain as a kid. I had to figure a lot of stuff out. So there's a lot of stuff that I absolutely adore doing.
yeah,
And this communication stuff, like big one, just for everybody listening, take the word why and throw it away. Because why will most often elicit a story, a rationalization, a justification, belief system, BS. What and how will always elicit strategy. What's going on? How do we get there? What can we do different? How do we measure it? How do we implement it? What's and hows will get you into action. It's a more masculine frame, but it's how to get, like, I want the result, right?
yeah,
Why is more of a feminine and it spins because the why is this circular question context and well, in the dawn of time. And it's like, okay, but I gotta take the sink apart. I don't need to know why is it righty tighty lefty loosey. Why is that? No, it doesn't matter. Just righty tighty lefty loosey. If it's not tightening, go the other direction.
right.
Like get the result. So what's and hows will drive you so much faster than why. Not that why is not important, because sometimes it is ontologically, epistemologically, metaphysically. Like we can get into that. But while we're in this analysis paralysis, we're not getting the result. And if you've got a kid melting down, they're having their amygdala hijack, they're in a critical stack overflow, it's blue screen of death in their brain, they're at the limit of their resources, they're communicating as honestly as what they can, and they're in an emotional fugue state. We give all these labels to it. What do you want? I want the kid to calm down. Cool. You have to be calm first.
Yeah.
Because you can't give what you don't have. So while you're having a meltdown and you're yelling at them to stop yelling and screaming.
Yeah, you can't meet that way.
I mean, you can, but it's ugly and messy and painful,
Yeah,
and it
oh,
causes
exactly.
stuff that has to be resolved later.
Yeah, it's like two rams meeting together in a field. And they
Yeah.
just slam into each other.
Yeah. Or you take a deep breath, you de-escalate yourself, say, hey kid, I love you. I can't, you're going so fast. I can't keep up. Can you help me? Take a deep breath, slow down for a second. I want to stay with you. My ears don't go that fast. I'm older, I'm taller, I'm bigger. I got the hair in the ears thing. Slow down. I want to hear you. You're going so fast. So just breathe for a second. Here, I'll do it with you. Ready? And what you just did is you met them at a higher amplitude energy because you're talking a little faster, you're going a little quicker, a little more clipped off. You're hitting them at that higher energy, and then you're decelerating. And as you
Right.
decelerate, their mirror neurons fire. They begin pressure wave changes. You take a deep breath, slows you down. They take a deep breath, slows them down. Now, what's going on? What are you upset about? Not why are you upset? What upset you? What's not okay with you? What's going on? Because you can get the kid to be more granular now because you're
Yeah.
slowing yourself. And just you hear my tone, my speed, I'm getting more into kinesthetic because kinesthetic communicators breathe a little slower and they talk a little slower and they
Yeah.
speak from lower in their chest. But if you've got a kid who's up like this and you're trying to reach them, you're like, hey, kid, slow down. It's too big of a mismatch.
Yeah.
So you've got to meet
Yeah.
your kid up where they are. Talk a little bit faster. Hey, kid, I really love you. I want to hear what you're saying. You're going so fast. Can you just take a deep breath with me? I can't keep up. This is on me. I want to hear you, but I can't go that fast. Can you slow down with me? And now what we did is this is a pattern called mirroring and matching. And then once I get their attention, then I can pace them and I can lead them and we can actually communicate with each other.
That I love that. I love that. And I think that I don't want to we don't want to steal all the thunder from your talk. I'm sure that there's
Oh,
quite
I've
a
got
bit
so
more.
much more. I've got so much
I
more.
had a
I have
feeling
like
that. So
I have a horizontal thing and I have a vertical thing and then we've got a circular thing and an umbrella thing. Like I've got so many different ways. Like I could do a full day. Like I've
well,
got I honestly have communication matrixed out in a 3-dimensional thing. Like it can sound overwhelming, but it's like you just do it step by step and it all links together. And then you've got this complete ability to like unpack someone's communication system and just walk into it right where they're at.
okay.
It's honestly the coolest thing, and nobody else is doing it because they don't think this way. For better or for worse, like I'm here and I'm like I want to share this because you get it. Like you got the Matrix. Oh, I know kung fu. Like that's the idea.
Yeah. Oh, gotta love that. The Matrix. You're,
Yeah.
you're really flashing back for me. I like that a lot. Hey, so before we end our time, a couple of things. One, I'm always curious of this. Uh, have you been to St. Louis before? And being that this is going to be your first time at Home Dad Con, what are you looking forward to with coming to the convention?
Honestly, the networking because the type of guy, the type of dad who's going to go to something like Home Dad Con, this is a dad who wants to raise his standards. He wants to step up and be a better father, a better husband. He wants to stand for something and take his kids and give them a better quality of life than maybe what he experienced. Or it's how do I do this simpler, faster, easier, more efficiently, more effortlessly, more playfully, more joyfully? But it's like he wants to be better.
Yeah.
And those are the coolest freaking guys to be around because they're open to growth.
Love that. Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to have all this in the show notes, but where can folks find your stuff ahead of time? Kind of do a little bit of their own deep diving into who you are and all the things that you're involved in. Because I've seen where you've been posting questions about marriage recently. Definitely been posting things about kids and stuff like that. And so, like Danny and I have always said, like men need mentors. You are definitely a mentor, and so I want to make sure that
Mentor.
yeah, I want to make sure that our listeners have access to your resources. So give us a
Yeah,
little bit of
absolutely.
that.
So I've got a bunch of free stuff. So if you go to TikTok at Jeremy Roadruck, I'm the only Jeremy Roadruck online, super easy to find. But TikTok is all short form content, 1 minute clips, and just data mine the whole thing because there's literally a ton of stuff there. Longer form content is YouTube, and again at Jeremy Roadruck, and there I've got like longer trainings and a lot of really good stuff there. And if a DIY works, like, dude, go hit that stuff, go follow the links and the conversations and the different resources I reference. You'll amplify everything you're doing good. If you want to take a step more and say, hey, I really want to like work on some stuff, I have a free Facebook group I call the Unstoppable Mindset. Right. The way I explain it is I do mindset mastery and peak performance relationship. And then when we talk about relationship, well, men, relationship, past, present, future, like boy, man, king. How is your relationship just inside yourself? Then we can talk about with your wife, kids, career, calling. We can get to those bigger conversations. But I've got the free group, which is the Unstoppable Mindset. I've got a paid group, the Unstoppable Masculine, and it's for masculine identifying people, because triangle and circles are different, and appreciate both, understand both, leverage both. And so I've got those routes. I've got on Amazon, I've got Your Best Child Ever Is This Game Worth Winning, the only parenting book with a money back guarantee. Um, and I did that because I wrote it after 17 and a half years of working with kids and families. I kept seeing the same patterns. I kept seeing the same games, the same stories. So I wrote an answer. Like I grew up, my dad had read a book called Games People Play, and it's based on a thing called transactional analysis. It's a form of psychology where it talks about three relationships: child, parent, and adult. The thing with Games People Play is here's a dysfunctional game, here's how to break it, stop. How do you play a better game? They didn't talk about that because this was forefront research in the 70s. They didn't have an answer. So I wrote Your Best Child Ever Is This Game Worth Winning, kind of as a rebuttal to that book, because it's not about people are playing these games for manipulation or control or power. It's because of scarcity. They don't feel emotionally safe, so they are creating these manipulative patterns for their own safety. Just break the game, replace it where we both get to feel good. And so I wrote the book. I wasn't dating. I was single, didn't have any kids of my own, but I had 17 and a half years of working with kids.
Yeah.
Ages 3 to 94. So I wrote that. So it's on Amazon. It's on Audible. You can get a signed copy from me. I'll have books with me at the convention. And then for dads specifically, I have a free quiz to analyze yourself on your personal growth. And then we'll set up a 15, 20-minute debrief. Here's the answer you gave. There's 9 questions for self-assessment. Here's where you are. Here's what's going on. Here's next steps, whether it's working with me or it's a DIY podcast, book, course, whatever. That's all secondary to me.
Yeah.
Like, here's how to gamify your own personal growth, and let's clean some stuff up. And then I do one-on-one work, integrating anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, literally integrate and release the past and clean that stuff up. So there's no more fault. There's no more blame. There's no more guilt. There's no more shame. There's ownership and the ability to respond, AKA responsibility. And I have a 5-step framework for that, to like, here's how to resolve this stuff once and for all.
Definitely.
And like, it's all designed, like in my world, suffering is optional and self-generated. We can unplug it because suffering is a belief system. Pain happens, collapsed the lung twice, hospitalized for it twice. Pain happens, but story creates suffering. And maybe we could change the story. I'm not saying we can, but maybe we could. And would that be beneficial and worthwhile?
Yeah. Well, I love all the resources. Definitely, man.
It's everything I can to help, because I know what it's like to be on that edge of, should I keep living or not? Is this worth it or not? And finding that answer. When a guy arrives at, I'm the problem and everybody's life is better without me, that is a very, very, very dangerous place to be. Yep. Because he only sees one result. And if he takes it, he now normalizes it for his kids to follow his course of action. My dad couldn't hack it. How am I? He didn't care about me to hang around. Why should I? And again, stories. We have a behavior. Somebody takes a permanent exit. Other people create a story about that behavior, then that story can drive them into similar behavior.
Yeah, definitely.
And we gotta break this stuff.
I completely agree, for sure. And that's why also too, like, we got involved with the campaign, No Dad Alone. And I think that falls right in line with all of that specifically. So I'll tell you, I am super excited to get to meet you in person in St. Louis. I hope that anybody who's listening that hasn't, bought a ticket to come to the convention, this has been another reason to come to the convention. I'll make sure that everything that we were talking about as far as website and stuff gets put in the show notes. But Jeremy, it's been a pleasure talking with you, man. And
Rock has been fantastic.
I don't think October can get here quick enough. So, but hey, until next week, we will, keep putting things out, and we'll talk to everybody in about another week. So y'all have a good one.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.